I was promised good sunsets and didn't get them this weekend. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, well, I guess I should get into the call screening program, shouldn't I? So unprofessional. The phone number is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. I was promised sunsets from this stupid dust storm that we had, and I didn't get any good sunsets at all. It was just this muddy kind of grossness in the sky, and people are sending me pictures on social media of their beautiful sunsets. I've got a finger for all of you people that I'm pointing at you, and we didn't have the sunsets. Everybody said, "Oh, you're gonna have gorgeous sunsets from the Shamal, from the Sahara," and we didn't. It was just kind of gross outside. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in the meteorologist who promised me a good sunset. I could barely even see the moon the other night. And now a gorgeous blue sky out there today. But a short week for all of you. Jim and I are working all week, and then I'm bailing on all of you next week. But we have news to get into in the meantime. Welcome. I'm sorry if you all experienced the muddy sunset with me. You should know the casino legislation died, dead, gone. They're livid at me. Apparently one of them made some Jim Crow argument and were blasting me on I have no idea. People were being stupid towards the end of the legislative session, but we won. Casino legislation died. Now, I've been told, interestingly enough, I was told by several people afterwards, it's becoming increasingly obvious that they don't actually want to pass the casino legislation. They just want the money from the casinos for their own reelection. Well, we'll get into that later. We got details on there, but we need to pivot into campaign 2020. The president has not had a very good week or weekend. The president, in fact, retweeted someone, made headlines over the weekend for retweeting someone who was chanting white power in a video. Now, he clearly didn't know. You had to get into this video. And I'm sure the president didn't pay attention, and even most of the media say, nah, he probably didn't know, but still, he should be careful when he retweets this stuff. After 4 years of this, you'd think he'd learn his lesson by now. He retweeted a video of people who were supposedly praising the president, and then one idiot in the video started chanting white power, which kind of ruined the whole thing. Here's Kellyanne Conway.
What I would say is that the three things are happening right now. We had a global pandemic that still is with us, coronavirus cases. We have an economic crisis that the president is handling, and also we have some social unrest, people calling for racial justice and the like. And so this president is on top of all three in the following way. And Joe Biden is completely absent from the conversation, which is why his poll numbers are high. People are putting onto Joe Biden exactly what they want him to be, what they expect him to be. They're going to be sorely disappointed once they see him and they hear him time and again. There will be debates, there will be conventions, there will be opportunities for people to question Joe Biden about what exactly he would do on all these crises rather than just attack Donald Trump. You can't say, raise my hand, I'm not Donald Trump. Joe Biden had 40 years to make some significant changes that would have put us in a better position to deal with all this. And Donald Trump's done a better job in less than 4 years.
She's got arguments that are credible arguments that most Trump supporters will believe. At this point in the campaign, though, the president's team needs to be focused on undecided voters, or not even really undecided voters, because there aren't a lot of undecided voters right now. What there are people who they're holding their nose and voting for Joe Biden because they're tired of the president and the drama. And so the stuff this weekend, like the tweeting stuff, are things the president's got to overcome there. And the president's campaign needs a fundamental shakeup. Now, listen, you talk to some people in Washington, D.C., and here's what they'll tell you. They'll tell you it doesn't matter. The campaign doesn't matter. It's all about the candidate. The president is who he is, except it does matter because you can go back to 2016. Remember when Kellyanne Conway was on the campaign trail and she took his phone away so he couldn't tweet? And she'd give it to him as a reward. If he did the things he needed to do and hit the metrics he needed to hit, he could get his phone and he could tweet. And it forced him to focus. Right now, there's no one on the campaign trail forcing him to focus. There's got to be some level of campaign shakeup in the president's campaign to get this moving forward. And, of course, there are some people whispering privately that, well, the president doesn't really want to win. I have a hard time to believe the president of the United States is going to go through the hell that he's going through and doesn't want to win. The people who are saying this, I think, not only are wrong, I think they're just talking out of their rear end. Here's Chris Christie, someone who is prone to talk out of his rear end, but he's making sense here over the weekend.
Well, listen, he is losing. And if he doesn't change course, both in terms of the substance of what he's discussing and the way that he approaches the American people, then he will lose. There's no question that while these national polls are less significant in terms of the raw numbers, the trend is obvious. The trend is moving towards Joe Biden when Joe Biden hasn't said a word. Joe Biden's hiding in the basement and not saying anything. No discredit to the vice president. If you're winning without doing anything, why do anything? The president has to change course here, both in terms of the substance and answering that question much better than he did with Sean Hannity in terms of what he wants to do in a second term. And secondly, he needs to approach the American people in a different way than he's been approaching them recently. So I said this last week, George, there's no doubt the president's an underdog. He's more of an underdog today than he was a week ago. Now, there's 128 days left, as was said by Nate Silver, and there is still a lot of time to go here. President Dukakis, as I said last week, was up over Vice President Bush back in 1988 at this time. So there's still a lot of time to go, but there has to be some fundamental changes that need to be made by the president and his team. If they don't do it, they're in big trouble.
Yes, there are fundamental changes that need to be made, but we do need to keep in perspective here. There is a great freak out going underway. And, the most annoying trend, and pay attention to this. Hang on. The word for the word when you hear a word you never heard and then keep hearing it. Yes, I'm totally unprofessional at this moment. That's what it is. The Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon. The Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon. You have no idea what the Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon is, do you? You never hear something, and then you hear it, and then you can't unhear it, and you hear it everywhere. I somewhere in my brain, I knew the term, but I had to Google it to get Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon. So what is it? Onomatopoeia. Do you know what an onomatopoeia is? Onomatopoeia is a word that is spelled the way it makes the sound. Boom. B-O-O-M. Boom is an onomatopoeia. You hear a boom sound, it's spelled boom. You're going to hear the word onomatopoeia now for the rest of the week. When you're out and about in your daily existence, you're going to hear it. So much like a song. You hear a song in a commercial and you like that commercial. You think it's a neat commercial. You hear the song, and then suddenly you go out and you hear the song everywhere. Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon. Yes. Baader-Meinhof. Why am I bringing this up? You people think I've lost my mind this morning. Okay, I'm tired, but I haven't lost my mind. There's a point here. I'm going to say something, and then you're going to become aware of it, and you're not going to be able to become unaware of it again. You're going to become aware, and you're going to start hearing it everywhere, and this is part of the problem for the Trump campaign. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon is at play right now in the Trump campaign. I'm going to tell you something. And from here on out, you're going to begin to become increasingly aware of it when you hear the media coverage of the president's campaign. What's happening right now that is a dangerous thing for the Trump campaign is you're hearing supporters of the president say, if only he would do my favorite thing, he would win, but he's not doing it, so he's going to lose. People are essentially, in advance of November, already trying to explain why the president lost. They're already trying to say, he didn't do this, therefore he lost. I saw it today, 3 different occasions on Twitter this morning, since I got up just after 6 o'clock this morning. One person tweeting that if only the president had really built the wall instead of pretending to build the wall, he could have kept out the Mexicans spreading the virus and he would win re-election. I kid you not. Someone actually did that. Someone else actually said that if the president would actually crack down on law and order and use the military to stop people tearing down these statues, he would win re-election. And of course, my personal favorite, if he would just stop tweeting, he would win re-election. which actually I think there's some credibility to that one. But nonetheless, you're starting to hear Trump supporters come out and say, if only he would have done this, he would not have lost. And yet it is June. We're not even into July. We've still got 2 days before July. He's got time. The question is, does he want to win? And I think if you're running for office, you do want to win. Of course, we're starting to get into the heat of the summer. You know how we had the 22nd Amendment fantasies? They were going to somehow or another 25th Amendment fantasies. The cabinet was going to throw out President Trump. We're now at he's going to decide, just give it to Mike Pence. He's just going to decide, let's give this to Mike Pence. We need Mike Pence to win now. We don't need to do it. Seriously, we're there. It's kind of interesting, that we are at the point where we've got people thinking, maybe he doesn't want to win. Maybe, possibly. Of course he does. He wants to win. He just needs to focus. But what we're going to start hearing now over the next couple of months are all the president's supporters convinced that he's going to lose. They can't admit he's going to lose. So what they're doing is they're shaping it as, if only he would do X, Y, and Z, that I personally love. And the difference between the people saying he needs to do something, like Chris Christie, for example. Chris Christie saying he needs a campaign shakeup. He needs people out who are in his campaign who are doing him a disservice. That's not, if only he would do the thing I want, he would win. No, the difference between the two is some people are actually giving legit advice to the president, and probably staying off Twitter so you don't accidentally retweet people chanting white power is probably something the president should do. The difference between the two is you've got someone, they are one track mind. It is their issue alone. By God, this is the issue. It's the only issue they care about. And now they're starting to scream, if only he would do this, he would win. The immigration guys are typically the biggest on here. If only the president would build the wall, he would win. If only the president would throw out all the immigrants, he would win. If only the president would stop allowing people of a different race into the country, he would win. You hear this all the time now. And they don't actually want to say or admit that they expect the president to lose. But that's kind of where they are right now. And the issue is not that the president is going to lose. The issue is that he is behind in polls right now. And many of you say the polls are all wrong. And maybe the polls are wrong. But I actually think, as Kellyanne Conway pointed out, we do have several new things here. We got a global pandemic that a lot of people aren't taking seriously and should. We got an economic crisis because of the global pandemic, which is a problem. And we've got social unrest in the country, which is a problem. And all of these things weigh on the president, but they also shape the polls. And then summer polling, of course, tends to be more negative for Republicans. I actually want to spend a little bit of time on this. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the polling phenomenon because, I used to do polls. I was a political consultant. I did campaign management. I know something about the polls, and the summer polls historically are never good for Republicans. In fact, if you recall, in 2006, you had Nathan Deal was behind Mark Taylor in Georgia. Or was it 2000? I can't remember when 2000, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. No, that was Sonny Perdue. Whichever year he won. In 2014, he was behind Jason Carter, and Michelle Nunn was ahead of David Perdue in the summer of 2014. In 2016, you had Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, a competitive race in Georgia. They were virtually tied. In 2018, you had Brian Kemp behind Stacey Abrams. In 2020 now, you've got Joe Biden ahead of Donald Trump here in Georgia. You've got David Perdue tied with John Ossoff, or maybe 1 point ahead. This summer for polling is always bad for Republicans, and you need to remember that. Remember, Hillary Clinton was 8 points ahead of Donald Trump in the summer of 2016. She wound up actually being 2 points ahead of him on Election Day Even though she lost because of the Electoral College, she won the popular vote. You can't dismiss that. But why is the polling so off during the summer for Republicans? If you can understand the phenomenon, you can understand, one, why polling isn't necessarily bad, but two, why you shouldn't put a whole lot of stock in summer polling, even though the trend lines, you can see the trend lines, and the trend lines are what you have to pay attention to. I'll make you smarter than your next door neighbor on this issue when we come back. This hour of the program is brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. They're in Noonan, Georgia, and they can help you get into the payroll protection program. Tomorrow is the last day. If you need into payroll protection, there's money available, but you got to apply no later than tomorrow. You can apply with First Liberty Building and Loan by going to their website, firstlibertyga.com. There's an Apply Now button on their website. Apply now, fill out the paperwork. They will get you processed and into the program. But you've got to do it by tomorrow or they can't help you. Now, they can't guarantee you'll get in, and I'm hearing from lots of people that it is taking them forever to get into the program. But that's the Small Business Administration's fault. It's not First Liberty's fault. All sorts of hangups in the government bureaucracy on this. And I actually want to spend a little time on this in a little while. But for now, if you need into the payroll protection program, it is a local group, First Liberty Building and Loan. They're in Noonan. They've been helping businesses since 1993. I know the family. If you're in Republican politics in the state, you probably know the Frost family. They're the fine folks who run First Liberty Building and Loan, and they want to help you. But you got to go to their website. You got to fill out the application online, get your payroll in order, and they will do what they can to get you in. FirstLibertyGA.com. And thank you to them for their sponsorship. Let's discuss the polling, shall we? So summer polling is bad for Republicans in general. Now, I'm going to dispute those of you say the polling's always wrong, and you say look at 2016. The polling in 2016 actually wasn't wrong. The polling had Hillary Clinton at a 3 percentage point win. She won 2 percentage points. The polling does not poll the Electoral College. The polling polls the popular vote, and she won the popular vote within a point of what the polling average said she would. Now, the key is the average. There are some bad polls out there, and the bad polls typically are the ones that get the spotlight and cause you to distrust the polls. If you take the polling average, that is the average of all the credible polls, you weed out a lot of the bad polling. The polling is not wrong. You have to pay attention to the polling. There's a reason the president has a pollster. If the president was such a great businessman, as everybody says he is, why would he waste his time on a pollster if the polling was wrong? Well, because everybody does it. If you really think that, you're pretty much an ignoramus. The president does polling because polling gives you a good idea of the trends. It may not get the number right, but it gets within the ballpark of the number and shows you the trends. Why is it so bad in the summer, though? There are a couple of reasons it's bad in the summer. Number one, Republicans tend to spend more time with families, have families, and travel. So when you've got the pollsters calling during the summer, guess who's not home? If you have pollsters calling on a Wednesday night, this trend is shifting, though, as the country becomes more secular. But by and large, Wednesday night polling and weekend polling greatly undercount evangelicals and Republicans. Why? Because they're in church or they're with their family. Never trust a weekend poll. Trust a poll that's done during the week that is done by a live operator who calls cell phones and landlines. Those are the gold standard for polling. They tend to be highly accurate. Very few pollsters do them because they're very expensive. But if you get a poll that does that, this is what the president's campaign team does, by the way. The polling gives you a good snapshot. During the summer, Republicans tend to be undercounted. Conservative Republicans tend to be undercounted. You can still get Republicans in there. But remember, just because you call yourself a Republican doesn't necessarily mean you're a conservative. This is one of the things so many people forget. A Republican and a conservative are not the same thing. But in the media's mind, they are. And in the common vernacular, they tend to be. But people who identify as conservative before Republican tend to think differently. People who identify as Republican tend to put the party above principle. Most people who consider themselves conservative put principle above party. It shapes how you engage with these people. And a lot of people just don't seem to care about that or notice that distinction. But during the summer, they tend to be traveling. During the summer, they tend to be with family. During the summer, they're not answering the phone. And so the polling gap increases during the summer. The trend lines are for Joe Biden. You just watch. We get past Labor Day, the trend lines will be a closer race, more towards the president. Now, what do we know about the polling? You can, even with this gap in Republicans, you can show a trend line. Let's assume you have the same pool of people, Republicans and Democrats alike, and it has Joe Biden at 9 percentage points, winning the vote by 9 percentage points. You keep the same pool of people, and it gets to 10, it gets to 11, it gets to 12, it gets to 13. You know that there is still, even if you can't get the exact number, you know there's still a shift in Joe Biden's favor, and that's what's happening in the polling. We don't know how many people actually support Joe Biden right now. What we do know is that there is a shift in the trend towards Joe Biden, and that gives the president ample time between now and November to try to get those people to come back towards the president. The trend lines can show us where we're headed, even if the numbers are not necessarily accurate. Hello there. Well, so the president's campaign has decided to make evangelicals a little mad this morning. They've rolled out a Make America Great Again pride cap. That's right. Evangelicals not happy with the president's team this morning for rolling out their rainbow-colored pride cap. It actually is kind of ugly. It's a white cap, and then Make America Great Again is in rainbow colors. Like, it's not like a red M and an orange A. No, it's striped across: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Yeah, evangelicals not happy about the president's pride cap this morning. Are they taking it seriously? Of course, they're a little bit squeamish given the president's basically coming out after the gay rights decision from 2 weeks ago, saying, it is what it is. You got to take it and accept it. Evangelicals, this is the problem for the president's campaign that no one seems to understand. The president of the United States won his election with 70,000 votes in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. 70,000 voters voted for the president of the United States in those states, tipping the Electoral College in his favor. The question today is, has he gained more votes or lost more votes? And the polling suggests he's lost it. And those of you who are listening right now who think the polling is wrong, you and all of your friends love the president and you're convinced the polling has won. We'll find out in November. What I can tell you is that the president's own campaign is concerned. And if the president's campaign is concerned, then we probably need to figure out why is the president's campaign concerned. And the reason for their concern is multifaceted and has a lot of it to do with message discipline by the president and his team. For example, he was on with Sean Hannity last week. And this is what Chris Christie was talking about on the Sunday Show. I played that audio. Sean Hannity asked the president what his second-term agenda would be, and he didn't have an answer for it. It was actually a really bad answer. Let me tell you an old story. I've told the story before. This comes via a friend of mine who worked for the Clinton campaign in 1996. If you'll recall, students of history, I was a youngin' at the time, but there was a governor. Her name was Ann Richards, and the left loved her. The media to this day treats her as some sort of hero. She's the woman who lost Texas to the Republicans. She was a left-wing Texan, and she talked like a Texan, but she actually governed the state like a New York City liberal. Her daughter went on to be the head of Planned Parenthood, relishing in killing kids. Man, what is it? Just with the psychology of running an organization like that. Yes, my mother should have had the right to kill me, or my mother could have done better in life without me. The whole thing is bizarre. Nonetheless, Ann Richards was governor of Texas. She lost to a guy you may have heard of, George W. Bush. In 1994, the Democrats championed Ann Richards. They made her into a big deal, and she went down in flames. And it was the revenge of the Bush family. In 1992, Ann Richards had given a speech at the Democratic National Convention where she nominated Bill Clinton, and she said, poor George, referring to George H.W. Bush, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, or a silver foot in his mouth. Instead of a silver spoon, a silver foot in his mouth. And she lost in 94. Her daughter went on to become the head of Planned Parenthood, and she called Bill Clinton in 96 and told Bill Clinton he was going to lose to Bob Dole. And the reason that he was going to lose to Bob Dole, according to Ann Richards, is that Bill Clinton on the campaign trail, he was behind Bob Dole in a lot of polling. And the reason he was going to lose to Bob Dole, according to Ann Richards at the time, was that he was telling people what he had done for them. He was not telling people what he was going to do for them in the future or to them. He was only telling that to Monica. So Bill Clinton was campaigning on what he had done, not on what he would do. He didn't have a message for the future. In the same way, Donald Trump right now doesn't really have a message for the future. It's what we have done and how bad the left is. And essentially his argument for a lot of people is you've got to vote for me to stop Joe Biden and the left. And for his core supporters, that's a galvanizing message. It is a really good message for the president, for a portion of his base to say, you got to vote for me to stop the left. And that'll work for a portion of his base. The problem is that portion of his base that it works for, they're going to vote for him anyway. So what does he do for the independents? What does he do for the independents? Well, one of the things he's got to do for the independent voters is he's got to provide them a message of what the next 4 years of Donald Trump would look like. And right now, the polling, and again, look at the trends, don't look at the numbers, look at the trends. And the trend lines, including in the president's own polling, and the only reason I know this is because they're leaking it to people, the trend lines in the president's own polling is that independent voters right now view Donald Trump as an agent of chaos, and they're tired of the chaos. You know, people forget, I just saw somebody point this out on Twitter, people forget that Joe Biden was ahead of Donald Trump in 2019 in the head-to-head polling when the economy was good and the virus didn't exist. And the poll and the margin has actually narrowed. The margin has narrowed because Joe Biden opened his mouth. And once people started looking at Joe Biden, they realized, wait a second, this guy, there's something wrong with this guy. And there is something wrong with Joe Biden. Democrats will privately acknowledge what they will not publicly say, that the Joe Biden of today is not the Joe Biden of 4 years ago. There is clearly something mentally wrong with Joe Biden. Joe Biden has clearly aged to the point that Joe Biden can't function well, and that leads the president's campaign to believe that they can make this about his running mate or the left taking over, the left ruling the roost, the left controlling the show. They may have an in there. But I would argue the better data point for the president is the economy. If he can get the economy reopened, overwhelmingly, poll after poll after poll shows that voters trust Donald Trump more than Joe Biden when it comes to the economy. But the reason we can't get to that point is the chaos. The people are kind of tired of the chaos. They view Joe Biden as an agent of calm, and they view Donald Trump as an agent of chaos. That's a problem. The president needs to calm the waters. Okay, if I were the president's campaign, I shouldn't do this without giving my advice. Now, I am a commentator, but I did run campaigns. If I were the president's campaign managers, what would I do? I would send the president on vacation for the next year, so he's never seen. Now, you think I'm kidding. I know people who've done this with candidates, and they've been successful. They hid the candidate. That's what Joe Biden's doing. Joe Biden's hiding in the bunker. Donald Trump should emulate Joe Biden's campaign and just disappear. Let the vice president run the show. Let the vice president be the point man. Let Larry Kudlow come out and talk about the economy. Let the Secretary of State come out and talk about China and Russia. Let the Secretary of Defense come out and talk about China and Russia. Let the Intelligence Director come out. Let them do it for you. Now, they technically cannot, these cabinet level positions technically cannot campaign, but they can show the competence of this administration and good stewardship. The biggest issue right now is the virus, and the data on the virus is really bad. I want to get to that in the next hour. The viral data is actually bad. And 60% of Americans are concerned about this at a minimum, including Republicans and Democrats and independents. Texas has had to stall its reopening. California has had to shut back down bars and restaurants. Florida is as well. And there's a serious concern about it. The protests and the riots, they're all a distraction right now. That's not really galvanizing public opinion in the way you would think, although it's going to wind up working badly for the Democrats overall, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure by Labor Day, the president will be able to capitalize on these tearing down statues and nonsense. Right now, everybody's kind of distracted by everything. There's too much going on. Nobody can focus. But in the background, looming large in the back of everybody's consciousness is this virus. And the president's core supporters think it's overstated and no big deal, and everyone else begs to disagree. Begs to differ. Have you seen the videos, by the way, of the angry woman throwing her groceries out of her shopping cart because there was a rule in the grocery store she couldn't go in without a mask? And she went in without a mask. They asked her she had to leave or put on a mask. She didn't want to put on a mask, so she started throwing her groceries. And then she left. Come on, people. Don't be idiots. I went to Fresh Market yesterday. For those of you who don't know, Fresh Market, fancy grocery store. It's like Whole Foods, but it's like the poor man's Whole Foods, kind of. We've got one in Macon. Went to it, and there's a big sign now at the door. Says, you must wear a mask to come into the store. They had little bitty, like 8.5 by 11 piece of paper on the wall, and people were ignoring it. And now they've got this giant sign. If you want to come in, you got to wear a mask. More and more we're going to go to that, and more you're going to see these people who they just can't listen. If I don't want you in my house, I don't have to let you in my house. If I don't want you in my grocery store, I don't have to have you in my grocery store. Wear a mask if you want in the grocery store. But this virus is looming large behind the scenes in the psyche of the American public. And if the president's team can't get a handle on it, that's going to impact the president more than anything. If the president can get a handle on it, the president can win re-election. You know, the media has been pushing this whole story about the president slowing down testing because on the stage at his rally, the president made the joke that he was slowing down testing to reduce the number, which is nonsense. Here's Dr. Birx.
Well, speaking of testing, you've talked about the importance of testing on this show before. Dr. Fauci has talked about the importance of testing on this show before. But in the last week, we saw the president say that he instructed his team to do less testing. Did he tell you that? And do you think that that's a good idea?
No, he did not tell me that, and he's never told us that. I think he's very proud of what he's been able to bring to bear for testing. It's the federal government who worked with the private sector to expand these platforms, make this available, and every day we're sending out swabs and transport media and extraction media to states so they can expand testing. When you have this amount of asymptomatic spread, we know how many young people now are asymptomatic. It's literally could be as high as 60%, maybe 40 to 60%. They don't know they're infected. The only way you're going to find them is through testing.
And as the testing goes up, we are finding not that the percentage of people is going down, but the percentage of people is going up, which is a bad sign. There's a lot happening this summer. My job, I guess, to some degree, is to try to weed out the nonsense and the BS for you guys and to focus on what really matters, because there is a whole lot of stuff out there that really doesn't matter. And I just think in the grand scheme of things, the summer protests don't matter that much. If they become post-Labor Day protests, they matter greatly. You know, this was the thing in 2018 with the Democrats and immigration and stuff, that they kept the protesting and everything alive past Labor Day. And it began as people started really focusing on the election. People started focusing on that and started blaming the president. I just think if they try to keep it alive that long, it hurts the Democrats. I think they're playing with fire on this issue. The Democrats are. They got to be very careful on the issue. And meanwhile, the media keeps trying to generate crazy stories to throw at the president, and I'm just not sure it's going to work. I mean, in all seriousness, I don't know that it's going to work. We're in the summer. The trend lines are against the president. A lot of this has to do with campaign malfunction. Behind the scenes, people in the Trump campaign and the media say, well, it's not really the campaign, it's the candidate. The candidate's got the problems. But we've seen this candidate exercise self-control in the past when others made him become disciplined by having someone with him to make him be disciplined. There is a way for him to do it. He's just got to do it. And right now, they don't seem to really have any interest in having him do it. You know, one of the other problems for the GOP, principle. What does the party even stand for? I'm going to the beach next week. It'll be the first time I've gone to the beach in years where I haven't written a book while at the beach. And I'm almost tempted to write a book at the beach after Trump. what should the Republican Party stand for? Because, and you know, whether he wins re-election or not, if he wins re-election, he's term limited. If he doesn't win re-election, well, he's gone, and everybody's going to be battling over the party. What should the party stand for? I was an elected Republican. Worst job I ever had, getting elected. Don't ever do it. Terrible. But I knew my principles and what I stood for. But like at the local level, in Georgia, you know, every city council is nonpartisan except in Macon at the time. It was partisan. That's where I was. I didn't know what the Republican position on trash collection was. No one ever told me. But, I mean, what does the party even stand for anymore? Every party has a party platform. Everyone totally ignores it. No one ever reads the party platform. What does the party stand for? What do Republicans stand for? They only seem to care about the debt and the deficit when the Democrats are in charge. Well, I mean, what are the values? What are the issues that the Republican Party should be for, other than owning the left? That's not really a party platform. What are the principles that bring new people into the party? I don't know that the Republican Party knows anymore. And right now it is a party that is a cult of personality. It is galvanized by a president who really doesn't have a lot of ideas per se himself. He relies on other people to come up with them. And so he's not an ideological force for a party for other people to gravitate towards the ideas. They're just gravitating towards the person. And when the person falls out of being liked, well, there are no ideas to like to back him up. So people flee quicker. That's part of the problem we're dealing with here. He's got to come up with some galvanizing ideas for 2020. Why does the president want to be reelected? He needs to be able to answer that question. You will notice I did not start the show with the biggest story of the weekend. It wasn't the president's white power tweet. No, I did not start the show with the biggest story of the weekend. The story from the New York Times, now amplified by the Washington Post and others, that the president and the vice president were told that Russia was paying bounties to the Taliban to kill American soldiers. It was a big story, happened on Friday. The New York Times released it. Officials within the U.S. intelligence community believe Russian intelligence operatives offered to pay Taliban-linked militants for killing coalition forces, including U.S. troops, during peace talks to end the nearly 2-decade-old conflict in Afghanistan. Officials told the New York Times that Unit 29155, part of the Russian military intelligence agency widely known as GRU, had been deemed responsible for the bounties. The unit is linked to the March 2018 nerve agent poisoning in Salisbury, England, of Sergei Skripal and his daughter. Skripal was a GRU officer who had worked for British intelligence forces and then defected. In 2016, the unit was linked in an attempted coup in Montenegro. The officials who spoke with the outlet on the condition of anonymity said the intelligence on the bounties offered by the GRU is fairly conclusive, based partly on interrogations of captured Afghan militants and criminals, but is unknown how high the Russian government knowledge of the situation or approval of it went. Now, the reason that I did not start the show with this pretty explosive story that has been backed up now by the Washington Post and other outlets is because we've been down this road before, where they release sensational news stories only to retract them or admit they got key details wrong later. And this story sounds too good to be true. Now, what do I mean by that? Remember the CNN story that James Comey was going to go to Congress and was going to testify and make explosive claims about the Trump administration, and then he failed to actually do so. Or there were several other New York Times stories, or the McClatchy story that Michael Cohen, the president's lawyer, had been to Prague and had engaged with Russians in Prague, and turns out that was specifically denied by the special prosecutor. Or there are lots of stories. Or remember the story about, what's her name? Violates, the woman who went to the Trump campaign offices to have a private meeting with them. And clearly that was coordination with the Russians. It turned out she was there to talk about the Magnitsky Act, that impedes adoption, in Russia because of Russian sanctions. Turns out that wasn't true. Time and time again, the media has run these really explosive stories about the Trump team and then had to walk them back slowly. And this one just sounds too good to be true, that the president and vice president had been briefed that the Russians were paying Taliban to kill American soldiers, and they had done nothing in response. Well, John Ratcliffe, the director of national intelligence, has come out today and said that the president had not been briefed on U.S. intelligence reports, nor had the vice president ever been briefed on intelligence alleged by the New York Times. And he said, quote, the White House statement addressing this issue earlier today, which denied such a briefing occurred, was accurate. The New York Times reporting and all other subsequent news reports about such an alleged briefing are inaccurate. Richard Grenell, who had served temporarily as the director of national intelligence, also came out and said this wasn't true, that he never heard about it, and that people who are politicizing these reports don't know what they're talking about, saying he was never advised of the situation. Now, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, and CNN, they're all reporting on bounties against U.S. and other coalition forces in Afghanistan. The Taliban denied it. The Russians are denying it. But the New York Times claims officials briefed on the matter said the bounty operation was pushed by the GRU. But there is no evidence that anyone was ever told in the White House. There is no evidence the vice president. Now, the president does not get daily intelligence briefings right now from what the White House says. But the vice president does, and the vice president was not briefed on this. The president wasn't briefed. The vice president wasn't briefed. No one seems to have knowledge of this within the executive departments outside of the intelligence agency. You know, these intelligence agents are the same ones who tried to bring down the president by leaking stuff to the media. So I'm not really sure why, without any other corroboration, we should believe this stuff, given how often members of the media are given things by embedded Obama supporters within the intelligence community. I would tread cautiously on this. It's why I did not lead the show with this news today. I think there's probably more we're going to have to learn about this. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the state of Georgia. The phone number, 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. Glad to have you with me this morning. I want to talk about the virus for just a little bit, if we can. I know we're all tired of talking about it, and yet it's rearing its head again. There is, you know, last week I told you there had not been a lot of data to suggest that the protesters were spreading the virus. It appeared mostly to be younger people going to bars and nightclubs that were spreading the virus. That does appear to still be the case. However, there are signs that there are some protesters who were spreading it. Minneapolis, Minnesota is seeing a huge spike now from people who had been out protesting, not just bars and nightclubs. And there was huge pride rally. It really is. Okay, let me hang on a second. So there is a where did we go? Here we go. Chase Rice. I don't know Chase Rice. Let's see this. Chase Rice is apparently a country music singer. I do not keep up with a lot of current country music. You know, I used to, but I don't anymore. But let's see this. Chase, I don't see Chase Rice in Apple Music either. Oh, wait, here we go. Yes, there's some. Let's see. Who is this guy? Is this more? Oh, yeah. More country. Let's see here. Do we have any words from Chase Rice here?
Change, but you find that you don't, because you can't outrun what you're right.
All right. His next song on this album is Break Up Drunk. Okay. Bro Country, the phenomenon continues, and he decided to do a concert. It was his first in-person concert in months. He did it in Tennessee. Beautiful backdrop there with the mountains and the cliffs. It was 1,000 people in a venue that holds 10,000 people. And all sorts of people you've never heard of were complaining on social media, jealous that he had gathered to do it. It was in Petros, Tennessee, 2.5 hours from Nashville, at Brushy Mountain, historic Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary. There we go. But organizers are now reevaluating it after social media. Here's the thing. I bring this up. There is outrage in the media that this guy, Chase Rice, had a country music concert for 1,000 people at a venue that holds 10,000. The video showed them piled on top of each other and inside the venue. There was nothing but praise for the giant pride rally in Chicago that had many more thousands of people marching just as closely together in the streets. Nothing but praise for the Black Lives Matter Pride Combo rally in Dallas, Texas, as cases surge in Texas. This is why people aren't treating it seriously. This is why people are willing to say this is politicized. This is why so many people won't believe the virus is a serious threat from media reports when the media attacks this guy for having a concert for 1,000 people in a venue that holds 10,000, while the very same members of the media are cheering on protesters in the street and the Pride rally. It is overwhelmingly young people getting the virus. It does appear through contact tracing efforts. It is mostly from bars and nightclubs, but there is growing evidence that some of the protesters spread it. And not just in, I mentioned Charleston, South Carolina, where a number of the protesters, they met at an indoor venue and the virus began to spread from them. But now it does appear that there are several instances of protesters in the street spreading the virus amongst themselves, and then the bars and restaurants thing. Here's Dr. Fauci.
What I meant by what is not working, and this is not anybody's fault or any institution's fault, is that what we're dealing with right now is community spread in the context of a substantial proportion of the people who are getting infected do not know they're infected. They're not symptomatic. They're asymptomatic individuals. The classic paradigm of identification, isolation, and contact tracing to actually contain that is very difficult to make that work under those circumstances. You superimpose upon that the fact that even with identification, isolation, and contact tracing, often the dots are not connected. If you get on the phone and talk to people who are in some of these communities, you find that a lot of it is done by phone. And when it's done by phone, maybe half of the people don't even want to talk to one who they think is a government representative. If you live in a community that is mostly brown or black, you're in a different situation that maybe 70% of them don't really want to talk to you. You can identify a contact, but you don't isolate them because you don't have the facility to isolate them. That is what's not working. So what we're going to do, and we are doing, and you're going to be hearing about this, flooding the area of a community to get a feel for what's out there, particularly among the asymptomatics. So in other words, it's a paradigm shift because we're dealing with young people, people who are going to be asymptomatic, and people who are getting infected in a community setting, not an outbreak setting where you know who to identify, isolate, and contact trace. That's what I meant.
There you go. You got to contact trace these guys. And it's hard because the young people, they're not paying attention. They're not keeping up with it. They got to do something. And we know it's young people who are doing this. It is younger people. Interestingly enough, not exactly, data suggests, not exactly the prime candidates for being Trump supporters. Younger people tend to vote Democrat, and they're the ones who believe the virus is a problem but still aren't taking any precautions. Here's the vice president on this issue.
To provide the kind of steps that will mitigate these new cases. But there's another way, John, that this is different from early on, and that is that one of the things that we've heard in Texas and Florida in particular is that nearly half of those who are testing positive are Americans under the age of 35. That's contributing to the fact that those that are requiring to be hospitalized who are testing positive for coronavirus is significantly lower than it was 2 months ago. And so we really believe that what is happening here is a combination of increased testing. We're able to test a great deal more Americans than we were able to several months ago. But it also may be indication that as we're opening our economy up, that younger Americans have been congregating in ways that may have disregarded the guidance that we gave on the federal level for all the phases of reopening. And I think that's why you see several governors taking action to essentially try and prevent further increases in those new cases.
Yep. You got to figure out a way to get the young people to contain this. You got to get young people to behave. But, we're not seeing an increase in deaths as the virus rises, and that's the big tip-off here. If this were older people getting the virus, you would see a big spike, and you're not. And the reason you're not is because they're not getting it. We figured out that nursing homes is where the stuff spreads, and it's not spreading there. It is spreading in bars and nightclubs. It's spreading at the protests. Interestingly enough, so the media isn't going to, and I only saw the Minneapolis report in one outlet, and it was a Minneapolis newspaper that was pointing out that young people who have been to the rally or been to the protests have gotten COVID-19 in Minneapolis, and you're not hearing that nationwide. Now, the data from contact tracing does show that it tends to be bars and nightclubs, but young people are less likely to participate in the contact tracing as well. So we can presume to a degree that it's coming from the protests. How much, we don't know. It does seem, research and data does seem to show that that being outside, you're less likely to get it. If you go to a restaurant, sit outside, you're less likely to pick up the virus. It's the inside conduct that causes it. By the way, there is some breaking news I need to get with. While I was playing the soundbite for the vice president, this came through. The Supreme Court has struck down the Louisiana Abortion Law. A pretty fractured decision, but the Chief Justice sided with the left on this decision. The Louisiana Abortion Law required that doctors have admitting privileges at a local hospital nearby if they were going to perform abortions. It was championed by pro-lifers. The Supreme Court 5-4 decision struck it down. The Chief Justice actually disagreed with the logic of the majority, but agreed with their decision. So it was Justice Breyer announced the judgment of the court, delivered an opinion in which Ginsburg, Sotomayor, and Kagan joined. Roberts filed an opinion concurring in the judgment. Thomas filed a dissenting opinion. Alito filed a dissenting opinion that Gorsuch joined, in which Thomas joined, and Kavanaugh joined part of it. Gorsuch and Kavanaugh also filed their own dissenting opinion. So essentially, this is Chief Justice John Roberts again trying to be Solomon. He doesn't want to give any wins to Donald Trump. So you have the way that this abortion case broke down continues, and I got to read the decisions. Let's be clear here. I do need to read them, but this continues, it appears, to show that John Roberts is done with Donald Trump. That the conservative legal revolution will be on hold until Donald Trump is gone. That John Roberts is not going to give conservatives wins on their core issues as long as Donald Trump is in the White House. He refused to join the reasoning of the liberal majority, but gave them their win. This is John Roberts declaring the conservative legal revolution on hold until Donald Trump is gone. We will find out by reading the dissents who actually is pro-life and who is not. But it's very striking just in the initial summation, given my working theory, that Roberts is right of center, but is refusing to give big gains to the right now because he's trying to protect the court from left-wing angst and presidential incompetence, that he's willing to not go along with the majority's reasoning in this abortion case, but he is willing to give them their verdict. This is totally John Roberts trying to protect his court by playing Solomon. He is willing to split the baby. Now, there's another case out that's actually a 5-4 decision that's pretty notable. The government, you will recall, passed a rule saying that if you get money from the United States to combat AIDS and HIV, you must have public policies against human trafficking. And believe it or not, outside organizations sued, saying they shouldn't have to have that. It was a First Amendment issue. The Supreme Court on a 5-4 decision said, no, actually, it's not against the law for the government to compel you to have policies against human trafficking if you're going to get federal government money. Amazing, 4 liberals on the Supreme Court thought it was. But here we have in the abortion decision, Louisiana's restrictions on abortion go down in flames because John Roberts cannot give the conservatives a win as long as Donald Trump is in the White House. We're going to take a quick time out so I can scan the decision slightly more, bring you further up to speed on it when we come back. Yeah, okay, so just skimming some of the Supreme Court stuff. Let me give you, if you're new to this, let me give you my working theory on the Supreme Court. And it is that John Roberts is kind of over the age of Donald Trump and believes that Trump's ability to stack conservatives into the judiciary, who the media has cast as yes men to Trump, even though they're not, that has long-term ramifications for the Supreme Court. But it is it is interesting that John Roberts has almost cast himself as the guy whose job it is to restrain the party in power. So with Donald Trump in power, the Chief Justice sides with the left on their big wants, and I suspect when Joe Biden is in power, he sides he will side with the right. Now, on the Obamacare case, it had everything to do, I think, John Roberts upholding Obamacare was provide legroom for the GOP to be able to campaign in 2012, take back the legislature and the White House and change it. And then they failed to do so. It went kablooey. That's my working theory, that John Roberts is the ultimate politician, completely unaccountable to the voters, trying to navigate the Supreme Court through a turbulent age where everybody on all sides is coming after the Supreme Court. I think that's what he's doing. Now, I could be completely wrong, but I think that's what he's doing. He's trying to take the politics out of the court by being a politician, and I think he ultimately does long-term damage to the Supreme Court by doing that, because he makes himself look way more like a politician. And everybody knows you're not supposed to. I mean, everybody kind of intuitively knows the judges are political, but they're not supposed to be politicians, and yet he is. The phone number here is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. I need to talk about, well, see, I want to say one of my favorite, but I love all of my advertisers. But I have a new one, True Precision. And their guns, which interestingly enough, there's a segue into the Roberts decision here. John Roberts said that judges really can't balance between scientific and unscientific evidence. That's for the legislature. But what judges can focus on is substantial obstacles put in the way of exercising a right. Substantial obstacles put in causing a disruption to exercising your right. That's what Roberts, in his decision today, joining the left on the Supreme Court, that he is. He said that the Louisiana Abortion Law that required a doctor to have access privileges to a nearby hospital if he was to perform abortion in an abortion clinic created unnecessary obstacles and hardship to exercising a constitutional right. Imagine that with the Second Amendment. Substantial objections or substantial obstacles to exercising a constitutional right. That puts Roberts in the camp of reducing obstacles to exercising your Second Amendment. One of the ways that the left wants to block your Second Amendment rights is to make it more difficult for those who sell parts to guns, not just guns, but parts to guns online, like my advertiser, True Precision. Their website is true-precision.com, true-precision.com, and they make fantastic pieces. For you want a new slide, you want a new barrel, you want a better grip. I've got a Glock 43X from them. It is my concealed carry gun. It is phenomenal. It is well built. It is beautiful. It is a work of art that they did. And you too can get one like what I got by going to true-precision.com, True Precision's website. You can find them on Instagram as well, but true-precision.com is their website. And you can order online. You can order the barrels. You can order the slides for your guns. And then if you put in ERIC, E-R-I-C-K, at checkout as your checkout code, you'll get 10% off. you want to go do that. It's a great way to support. And by the way, they're local here in Georgia. So if you're in Georgia, you can get it sooner the way the mail works. You can get it sooner, but true-precision.com. Now, when you go to this Roberts decision here, it looks very political to me. It looks to be the most political decision that John Roberts has made, that he's not going to agree with the majority on their decision. He's just going to let them have their way. And this completely corroborates my theory that he is a political animal and is being political in the preservation of the court. Now, there's another big one. There is another big issue here. The Supreme Court has decided that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's structure violates the separation of powers, but that the director's removal protection is severable. You will recall that the CFPB was designed so that the director could not be removed by the President of the United States. The Supreme Court is holding that the CFPB violates the separation of powers. We go on to hold that the CFPB director's removal protection is severable from the other statutory provisions bearing on its authority. The agency may therefore continue to operate, but its director must be removable by the president at will due to the separation of powers. That actually gives a win to conservatives in a way that they wouldn't. The Consumer Financial Protection provision collapses in the way Elizabeth Warren wanted it structured. And interestingly enough, that is John Roberts giving a big conservative win in theory, but it's actually small ball. Now, how is that? Well, conservatives had advanced the case on separation of powers and a unitary executive, and Roberts has conceded all of that in his decision on this. But at the end of the day, it's not the win conservatives wanted. Conservatives wanted the win on the abortion clinic case. So there you have it. There's your big Supreme Court news. They are now done for the day, rendering decisions. More on this and more when we come back. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. If you would like to be a part of this here program, you can by calling 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. Tomorrow is the last day to get into the payroll protection program. If you think you want it, independent contractors and small businesses can get into it. If you want it, what you need to do is go to FirstLibertyGA.com, FirstLibertyGA.com. Click on the Apply Now button on their website. They got it in 2 locations on their website. Fill out the paperwork. Here's the deal. The deadline is tomorrow. It is the last possible day, unless Congress extends it, and they may not. Tomorrow is the last possible day to get into the payroll protection program. And if you want to get into it, you need to go to FirstLibertyGA.com. They are local, First Liberty Building and Loan. They're in Noonan, Georgia. It doesn't matter where you're listening to me, though. Anywhere in the nation, if you're listening, you can get into the program through First Liberty. They cannot guarantee you access to the program. No bank can, but they've had great success. Now, I've heard from a number of you who have complained. And the complaints are all about the Small Business Administration end of this. I talked to Mr. Frost at First Liberty. I've talked to a couple of friends of mine who are bankers separately from him, and they're all saying the same thing. You get your application paperwork in, and you're probably going to hear from them 3 times wanting you to get them stuff that you already sent them. And the reason they want the stuff that you've already sent them is because they're sending it off to the Small Business Administration. Small Business Administration is calling back and saying, hey, send us this stuff. And they reach out to you and say, send it. Well, you've already sent it, and they've sent it on to the Small Business Administration, and the SBA is just completely screwed up on this stuff. So don't blame the lenders, blame the government bureaucracy, but the small business lenders are going to do their best to get you in. You go to FirstLibertyGA.com to apply, get your payroll in order. What you do is you get your estimated quarterly payments and get it in order, and away you go to do that. So please get yourself squared away and go to FirstLibertyGA.com. Now, I want to spend a little more time on this and re-articulate this for a lot of you. I have a working theory on John Roberts, and I came to my working theory on John Roberts in his Obamacare case. If you will recall, in 2012, June of 2012, John Roberts delivered the opinion of the court on Obamacare. and it was a 4-1 to 4, very much like the abortion case today. John Roberts decided that the individual mandate was a tax, and therefore, under the taxing power, the individual mandate could be upheld, and therefore Obamacare could be upheld. And no one on the court agreed with him, but the 4 liberals on the court went with him on this decision in order to have Obamacare upheld. And my theory at the time, reading John Roberts, my theory at the time was if you read his opinion, he essentially was providing a roadmap for congressmen and Mitt Romney to end Obamacare. Polling, you will recall, never showed it was popular. Polling, you will recall, showed repeatedly voters hated it and that it was something that was going to hurt Barack Obama. And so John Roberts decides, as the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, to cut a path forward where the court can look non-political by preserving Obamacare. He can look like he's not in the pocket of conservatives, but also make it very easy for them to throw it away once Mitt Romney won. Well, Mitt Romney did not win, and the rest is history. But ever since that case, the way I have read John Roberts is institutionally he wants to protect the Supreme Court. Philosophically, he is right of center, but ultimately he is the political head of a political branch that likes to pretend it's not political. And so you get into the age of Trump, and what are the big headlines about Donald Trump in the courts? He's packing the courts with conservatives. And so what is John Roberts doing? He is regularly siding with the liberals on the Supreme Court to prevent big wins by Donald Trump. But he is doing so in such a way as to ensure that when the next administration comes in and he sides more regularly with conservatives, he can say, no, look, I can cite my cases against Donald Trump to justify this. So, for example, in today's case, John Roberts sides with the majority, lets them get away with killing this abortion law in Louisiana, but does so by saying that judges must stop unnecessary obstacles to exercising a constitutional right. So when the Biden administration and a Democratic-controlled Congress tries to make it more difficult for you to keep and bear arms, he can come back and say, no, look, I said the judge's role is to stop unnecessary obstacles from exercising the constitutional right. You got the Second Amendment. We've already upheld it. Therefore, you can't do this. So John Roberts views his goal as being the chief of restraint against the incumbent party in the White House. And essentially what John Roberts is signaling is that he's done with Donald Trump. He is over the Trump administration. He doesn't take them seriously. He doesn't put stock in what they say. He doesn't believe them, and he'll wait for someone of his liking to come along. And that's not a Democrat. It is someone who actually follows along with what John Roberts wants. Take for example the case. He had the census case, and then he had the DACA case. And John Roberts in the census case outlined how the Trump administration needed to proceed if they wanted to roll back something the Obama administration had done administratively. You get to the DACA case, they had not done what John Roberts outlined for them to do, and so John Roberts says, you can do this, but you didn't listen to me, so you can't. He wants the courts to be respected, and he wants the courts to be thought of as an independent branch of government. And at a time where the Republicans are bragging about stocking the judiciary full of Trump appointees, Roberts is worried about the perception of the independence of the judiciary, particularly as the Democrats are saying they're going to pack the court. So Roberts keeps handing wins to the left to get the left off of this. He's all about protecting the court, and he's all about restraining the incumbent party in the White House and the incumbent forces out there. That's him. You can say he's selling out, and he is. You can say he's being political, and he is. But this is, in my interpretation, what John Roberts is doing. He's putting conservative advances on hold until there is a president who he strikes him as more competent than Donald Trump. Disagree with my analysis all you want. I'm telling you, that's how I read this. And it goes back to the Obamacare case. That was a decision of a politician who knew if he did it, if he threw out Obamacare, that they were going to come after the Supreme Court. And he wanted to protect the Supreme Court while making it really easy for Republicans to undo it. And then the Republicans failed to carry the ball. So there's my interpretation of what he's doing. Now, let's go to the phones to Spencer calling from my in-laws town, Carrollton. Spencer, welcome to the program.
Hey, Eric. Thanks for taking my call. Really enjoy the show. What I wanted to talk about was the coronavirus and how, you were saying earlier that, most of the people that are infected are under the age of 35. As a standpoint, wouldn't that be the optimal group that we would want to get the infection out to help build up the herd immunity, since there is no vaccine and we're not at a point where we're going to stop.
I'm glad you said that, because I've been thinking that. We know, one of the most striking things is the number of cases in the country has skyrocketed. The number of daily deaths continues to decline pretty rapidly, as does hospitalization. So very clearly, young people are getting this disease, and it's manageable for them. Manageable short-term and long-term, overwhelmingly. There are some exceptions, and the media, I think, has amplified the exceptions more than they should. But, yeah, if we're going to get to the point where the virus stops spreading, we probably do want young people to be spreading it until we can get a vaccine. Now, I'm not a big advocate of herd immunity for the reason that you really need 85% of a population to have herd immunity, and that means it would have to spread back to older people, which would cause hospitalizations and deaths to go back up. But, yeah, particularly when parents are so freaked out. Do you have kids, Spencer?
Yeah, I do. I actually have almost 1-year-old. So.
Oh, okay. So, well, you're not where I am, but we're already having the conversations with whether or not we're going to have school this year. And if we have school, what are they going to do?
I am a teacher, so,
okay.
that's been on my mind, too. And thinking about, if we go ahead and going back, I think the approach of waiting for hotspots to develop, is the appropriate response. But at the same time, I still think we should allow for, the younger generation to get out and mingle, to help keep the economy going and sort of get closer to that herd immunity. Obviously, still take some precautions in wearing a face mask when out in large public areas, but and not have, incredibly mass gatherings. But
right.
And since there is no vaccine, I think the idea that, of shutting down things again because, your bars and nightclubs are mostly going to be filled with the younger generation.
Right.
And so I thought that, obviously Houston's a big hot spot right now, but, I think that we don't need to freak out right now with all the new cases. And I guess I'm just kind of tired of a lot of
the collective freak out in the media over this without data. I'm glad you said that. And being a teacher, this is relevant to you. And thanks very much for the phone call. We're worried. What do we do? And to some degree it makes sense if all the young people get the virus and then develop a level of immunity to it. And we've protected the old people from it, then the virus that way can probably stop spreading. The downside there, though, is while there's still no evidence that kids transmit it to parents and to older people, there is some evidence that older teens do. So what do you do? Like in Sweden, for example, young people were going to school. Elementary kids and middle school kids would still go to school, but high school kids would not because they could get the virus and it could do damage to them and they could spread it to their parents. So there are still questions out there. But I will say this, Scott Gottlieb who used to be the head of the FDA said that there are all sorts of scientific breakthroughs that are on the verge of coming in the next few months and that will help us tremendously with what we're looking at, that by the time school starts, things will change. I'm still hung up on the outrage over the mask. I've got conservative friends of mine in Texas who are just livid at the governor of Texas for shutting stuff down, and they're convinced that they know more than the governor and his expert team. And that's the striking thing to me about all of this, are the number of people who have convinced themselves that they know more than the experts because they read it on the internet somewhere. And I'm not willing to go that route, frankly. I'm just not willing to go down the path of presuming I know more than the experts. I'm going to listen to the experts, and I assume you will as well. But we're going to have to figure out something for school. There are some school districts around the country who are openly talking about not having school in the fall. And that is going to cause all sorts of problems because the parents need to go to work. And if they're leaving their kids home all year long unsupervised, that's going to be a problem for them. Hello there. Well, let's move beyond the Supreme Court. There's actually some polling here in Georgia. Keep in mind, summer polling isn't great for Republicans, particularly here in Georgia. But the latest polling out of Georgia has Joe Biden in the lead against Donald Trump, but all the other Republicans doing well. And that's one reason you have to take note of a poll like this is when all of the polling out there shows that that the Republicans are doing well in Georgia, but Donald Trump isn't in the same poll. You can see that there's some level of voter angst about the president himself and not about Republicans in general, which to some degree could be a saving grace for Republicans, as there are a lot of people who are nervous about the polling and nervous about the president, and people who like Republicans and have long identified as Republicans suddenly not enamored with the president. There's a path forward for the GOP post-Trump, but the president himself does have some problems. And you could also see a runoff in Georgia in January with Doug Collins and Kelly Loeffler. That appears to be the trend lines. I've seen private polling, and now there's some public polling out there that has Doug Collins and Kelly Loeffler in a runoff against each other in January. There is definitely going to be a runoff in Georgia at this point, unless Collins makes up further ground. And I say Collins there because Collins is in the lead. This is public policy polling, which is it is a left-wing group taking a poll, but it's very close to private polling I've seen from a very competent pollster of likely voters that Joe Biden is ahead of Trump by 3 points. In the Senate, Collins leads the field with 23%, followed by Kelly Loeffler with 21%, Raphael Warnock at 20%, Matt Lieberman and Ed Tarver at 11 and 3%. In the head-to-head matchup, Collins beats Warnock, and then Warnock beats Loeffler. There you have it. We will see how that shapes up over time. Now, the legislature has gone home and the casino bill failed. And now you've got legislators who are mad at me saying, I can't believe you wanted to highlight that. We didn't want it to pass anyway. Well, maybe you should have brought it to the floor. So here's what I've been told. This actually makes me deeply proud of the cynicism of the Georgia legislature. Let me tell you what I was told. That the Republicans had no intention of passing this legislation and were perturbed at me for daring to raise the issue of the legislation because they had no intention of passing it, and I gave them a black eye, and all they wanted was the money from the casino lobbyists, that they needed the casino lobbyists. So there you go. Ridiculous, silly, but nonetheless, there you have it. So it failed. Now, what passed? Well, the hate crimes bill obviously passed, and the budget passed. Now, I need to give you a tip-off. Be smarter than everyone else out there on this. The Democrats are bellyaching about the cuts in education, 10% cuts in education. Charlie Harper over at the Georgia Politics website has pointed out this morning that the school systems in Georgia, with very few exceptions, almost every school system in Georgia has more money in their reserves than the state legislature took from them. So in other words, they have money in their savings account to cover the losses from the legislature during this downtime. And yet they're bellyaching. The Democratic position out there is actually the Republicans should have raised taxes. That is actually what they're campaigning on. And I just don't think that is going to actually help them. I don't think that's actually going to amount to a winning campaign message in November. That the Democrats, remember, they also opposed protecting police. They proposed that they stripped hate crimes of police protection. The Republicans passed it separately, increasing penalties on people who commit crimes against law enforcement officials and first responders. The Democrats opposed that. They wanted tax increases to increase education funding, never mind the reserves and all that. I'm telling you guys, that's not a winning message for the Democrats. Now, one thing the Republicans did give us that's worthwhile: home delivery of alcohol. Liquor stores will be allowed to deliver beer, wine, and liquor. So will grocery stores. Now, a lot of this came from Instant Cart. Now, for those of you in rural parts of the state who are listening right now, we only just got this in Macon. There's a company called Instant Cart. And Instacart will go to the grocery store, do your grocery shopping for you, and then deliver it to your home. And you can tell them what you want. You can say, well, if they don't have this, get that. If they don't have this, don't get anything. And they go through, they pick up all your groceries for you, and then they deliver to your house. And people are doing this kind of a side gig. Some people are making it their regular gig, and they drop off your stuff at home. But one thing they can't do is if you want to order beer or wine from the grocery store, they can't deliver it. It's against the law. So what they are doing, what the legislature has decided to do, is to change the law to allow this sale and home delivery of beer, wine, and liquor. I think that's a win. I think it's a win. Now, there are other issues that they've put off, but those issues will die. They can't come back because there's an election. You know, the legislature, if something, for example, next year, if they start something in an off year, legislative season, and it never makes it all the way through, it's considered live until the next year, the election year, and they can deal with it then. But if it doesn't pass by then, it's dead. The legislative session is technically 2 years. Well, they're having an election, so anything that hasn't passed is now dead. So the casino legislation that would have upended the Hope Scholarship is dead, and they are still denying the facts. They are still denying that it would affect the Hope Scholarship. They're still blasting me, saying it's a lie, and it's not. And I've walked you guys through the math. I've walked you through the data. I've walked you through reports, and they are absolutely in denial about it. And one of the problems here are suburban Republicans. So a number of the suburban Republicans actually were convinced that this would help the Hope Scholarship because sports betting money would have gone to the lottery, except sports betting conducted in casinos. And a buddy of mine who's in the legislature told me that one of the projections used by the casino people was that sports betting would go through the roof if they legalized it, and that would flood the lottery with money. And what they left out of the detail is the projection on how much sports betting would actually happen in casinos, which some of the estimates showed the majority of it would, which meant that money wouldn't go to the Hope Scholarship. And everyone completely ignored that. Well, the matter is dead. Now, when we come back, we need to talk about the masks. And we need to talk about the belly aching over Brian Kemp in Georgia. He doesn't want to do anything different now. And people are really mad at Governor Kemp. And I would like to spend a few moments in defense of the governor of Georgia over what's happening in the state of Georgia with the virus, as the trend lines for the virus go up, but the death toll continues to go down, the hospitalization rate continues to go down. We're actually making good progress in the state, but you would never know it from the hysteria of some of the people out there on the left right now when it comes to what Governor Kemp is doing in the state. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the third hour of the program. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is, what is my phone number? 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. This hour of the program is sponsored by Mrs. Griffin's Barbecue Sauce, which is delicious. Many of you know it. I didn't realize how many of you already were Mrs. Griffin's customers, but you love it because it is old school, great barbecue sauce, the oldest still commercially produced barbecue sauce in America. It's made right here in Middle Georgia, where I am. And it's delicious stuff. And it is, you can find it at your local grocery store. You know, they're still having ketchup shortages in grocery stores across America, but you can find Mrs. Griffin's barbecue sauce. And if you go to their website, mrsgriffins.com, you can order 2, get a third one for free, and delicious. Savor it, love it, use it. It's great on everything. It's great on pork. It's great on beef. It's great on chicken. It's great on wings. It's great as a dipping sauce with wings. In fact, you know what I've done? Smoking wings. I'm not a big wing eater, but I've decided I should. So I've been smoking wings. You brine them, you smoke them, and then you add some hot sauce to your Mrs. Griffin's and you use it as a dipping sauce, and it's fun time. So there you have it. Mrs. Griffin's barbecue sauce. You need it. You want it. You love it. It's local. Support a local business. Support a great barbecue sauce. Now, I need to defend the governor of Georgia. There are a lot of people who are belly aching about Governor Kemp on Friday, urging people to wear masks while not passing executive orders demanding people wear masks. There are a lot of people who are upset the governor is allowing people to go back to pre-pandemic life to an extent. There are a lot of people who are upset that the governor of the state of Georgia is not imposing new restrictions and shutting the state back down. First of all, I would note that California saw a 70% increase in its number of cases, and New York still leads the nation in cases and deaths, and yet the media is fixated on states where the Republicans are, where the governors are Republican. I mean, if you would think that Georgia, Texas, Florida, South Carolina, and Arizona were disaster states, when actually California and New York are leading the nation right now in these cases. California, of course, shut down more thoroughly, more comprehensively than other states, and yet has seen a 70% increase in the last few days, day over day, of cases, and that's a problem. Here in Georgia, progressives are screaming that Governor Kemp should have done something different, should have done something more, should have done something. You know, at the end of the day, you don't have to leave your home. And if you leave your home, you should wear a mask. But the governors are going to make you wear a mask. I wear a mask when I go out. You can wear a mask. But the idea that the governor of the state of Georgia should use the police power of the state to force you to change your behavior and to shut down businesses again that are already financially wrecked, I think says more about you than the governor. And no, it doesn't say that you're a high-minded citizen who wants to stop the spread of the virus. It shows that you are someone who doesn't think your fellow citizens are capable of acting responsibly. And, you know, some of them prove you right. Many of them prove you wrong. But the idea that the governor of the state should do this, and, you know, he's had an overarching concern this entire time, that if he's very draconian in his measures and people don't do it and it's not enforced, it will ultimately amount to a collapse of the rule of law. And he's right in that, philosophically. And actually, in practice, he is right. So what is the governor of the state of Georgia doing? The governor is urging people through social media and PSAs and the like to wear masks. And he's talking very much about your need to be responsible and wear a mask. He is insistent that if you go out in public, you wear a mask. He is insistent that you take these steps and be precautious and safe and not spread a virus. He continues to remind people to wash their hands, and he continues to remind people not to make unnecessary trips anywhere. He continues to remind people not to go into social settings and that you shouldn't go to bars and restaurants. If you need to go, if you're going to meet with people, you don't want them in your house, you need to go somewhere, be somewhere, but socially distance, be responsible, wear masks as best you can. And he's making sense in that. And yes, Georgia is seeing an uptick in the virus. Unquestionably, Georgia is seeing an uptick in the virus. Let me give you the latest data in the 7-day moving average. We continue to go up, 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 up. We're back over 1,000 people hospitalized again. Let me give you the data right now. We've got 1,460 people on June 16th. We got 1,517 people on the 15th. That's gone up 200 from last week. From last Monday to today, that number's gone up from 1,300 to 1,517. The 16th was 1,460. The 17th was 1,495. The 18th was 1,487. The 19th was 1,469. The 20th was 1,112. The 21st was 570, but that's a Sunday, so testing is down. The 21st was 1,840. The 23rd, that was the 22nd. The 23rd was 1,456. The 24th, 1,332. We're setting daily records. The virus is going up. The 7-day moving average is skyrocketing in Georgia. Overwhelmingly, it is younger people. The number of confirmed cases a month ago was exceedingly, the 50-year-old and above were leading. Right now, it is the 18 to 29-year-olds, 16,220 confirmed cases, but only 518 hospitalizations and 13 deaths. That's over time. I wish the state would allow us to track that metric daily, and they don't provide a way to track it, but that number is skyrocketing. The second largest group is 30 to 39-year-old, followed by 40 to 49-year-old. So we've got a massive spike in the 18 to 29-year-old group. It is now overwhelmingly white people as well. It is now females 13,300 to men 12,200 among white, and among black it is 13,000 female, 9,000 male. Overwhelmingly, it is now white people getting the virus, and it is young white people getting the virus. It is young protesters getting the virus, but mostly it is young partiers getting the virus. It is young people going to bars and nightclubs and party boats on Lake Lanier who are spreading the virus to each other. It is kids sharing instruments, vape pens and the like, who are spreading the virus. Kids sharing drinks, kids who are going to the bar, young adults, 20-somethings. It's not older people right now getting the virus. It's not spreading in nursing homes the way it was. It's not spreading among middle-aged populations the way it was. It is the 18 to 29-year-olds who are doing this, who are getting it. And overwhelmingly, they're not getting in hospitals. Overwhelmingly, they're not dying. Overwhelmingly, they're spreading the virus. And frankly, they're building their own immunity to it. I think it's irresponsible for the Democrats out there to be screaming hysterically about what the governor is or is not doing and blaming him at this point for a spread of a virus that is equally spreading in 29 of the 50 states in the same way, including states that are run by Democrats and states that are run by Republicans and states the president won and states the president lost. The virus continues to go up. What's happening in Georgia is not an anomaly to anywhere else, and what's happening is overwhelmingly a phenomenon of young people. To believe that the governor of the state of Georgia needs to shut down the state again, is this what we talk about when we say white privilege? You live a privileged enough existence that you think the governor can shut down the whole state again and it's not going to impact you or anyone else you know? What about the people it is going to impact? The number of people who went unemployed? You know, unemployment is going down. Employment is coming back up. Businesses are reopening. Wear a mask. I do think people should wear a mask. Did you see the videos? There were two separate videos, one of a Trader Joe's and one of a in California and the other of a place in Texas. And in California, a woman was absolutely being shamed by other people in the store. It was really gross. The partisan leftists who were shaming this woman, she had enough, went on a profanity-laced tirade and left the store. But in Texas, I don't know what grocery store it was. Maybe it was Wegmans or H-E-B, the He grocery store or whatever. There was a requirement that people wear masks. This woman went into the grocery store, was loading up groceries, and the store manager asked her to put on a mask or leave, and she had an absolute meltdown. Hush up, Siri. Had an absolute meltdown and began throwing the groceries out of her shopping cart onto the floor before storming out of the grocery store. I've got friends of mine in Texas who are bitterly angry at the idea of wearing a mask in public. I don't get it. To me, it's not a matter of responsibility. In the same way the state tells you to put on a seatbelt, wear a mask. In the same way the state tells you to put pants on before you go outside, wear a mask. Now, use your common sense. There's no reason to bully people over it. That's the other weird, silly thing here. The people who are getting bullied. Listen, if 9 out of 10 of you are wearing a mask, you don't have to worry about the 10th person. You don't have to worry about that 10th person not wearing a mask. There's no reason to shame or bully them. There's no reason to put them on social media and try to ruin their life. But increasingly, we're seeing that happen as well. Is we're seeing people get on social media by the bullies, demanding that everybody shame them. And you know, the media used to be upset with bullies online. Remember all the hand-wringing over social media bullying and then the kids committing suicide? And it was always the bullies who were picking on the kids, and the kids would ultimately commit suicide. And there was all sorts of media shame of the kids who were bullying, deservedly so. Deservedly so. Well, now the bullies and the media are on the same side, shaming people, oftentimes Trump supporters, bullying them, ruining their lives, driving them from their jobs, outing them on social media, painting them as bad guys, and the media is A-okay with it now. They should be. This is bullying as well. Got to do something here, folks. We got to do something with the media and the left using social media to bully people. Concurrent to that, though, the idea that the governor of the state of Georgia should run a ninny state, not even a nanny state, but a ninny state, where the governor demands and shuts down businesses and the like because he's not doing what you want is crazy. Yes, the virus is going up again, but it's going up in other states as well that are much more aggressive. The governor is trying to allow businesses to preserve their business while getting people back to work. It's a delicate thing he's trying to balance. And frankly, I think he's doing a good job. The outrage from people on the left, though, that he won't impose new restrictions. Well, you know what? You don't have to go to the bar. You don't have to go to the nightclub. You don't have to go to the restaurant. You don't have to do any of these things that you don't want to do. And there's no reason to attack the governor for not forcing other people to behave as you. There's no reason to attack the governor for telling people to wear masks but not mandating by law that they wear masks. He's either doing the right thing or he's not. And look, I can't convince you otherwise. But the fact is he's raising public awareness. He's being very proactive. He's telling people to do the right thing, but he's going to expect people to do the right thing. He's not going to use the police state power to force them to do something they don't want to do right now when there's really no reason. The trend lines are the same everywhere. It is 23 after the hour. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. Well, you know what failed? Police reform. Not going to go anywhere. Here's Senator Tim Scott, who tried to take the lead on this.
There's a reason why murder is up 79% over the numbers last year, 64% shooting increase over the numbers last year, just in New York City. When you start demonizing and stereotyping all law enforcement as evil and bad, you start putting targets on their backs, you start seeing them withdraw from some areas, and that creates a powder keg that's not good for the nation. And so the demonizing of law enforcement is not a part of my bill because I don't want law enforcement to demonize African Americans. We have to be on the same page.
Yeah. And that's something that nobody in the media wants to talk about, this great crime wave that is happening across the country. And there is increasing crime. In Atlanta, crimes against households are up 57% over this time last year. There is a real problem with crime right now, and it is because of Democratic attacks on the police. Can you blame the police in all seriousness? When you got Paul Howard in Atlanta, the district attorney in charge of Fulton County, any police officer who is accused of being slightly over-aggressive, he's indicting them. The police officer who shot Rayshard Brooks, indicted for murder, capital crime, bragging about he could get the death penalty in his press conference, even though he said he wasn't going to push the death penalty anymore. The 6 police officers who tasered the college kids, they were black police officers, fired and now indicted. That's what actually began the police slowdown in Atlanta. In New York City, the mayor constantly attacking the police up there, constantly blaming the police for everything. The police have stopped enforcing the law. Crime has skyrocketed. One more from Tim Scott.
Much of the House bill wanted to confront. And so the answer to the question is yes, without any question. We had an opportunity. And here's a classic example, Jake. The chokehold. The difference between their bill and my bill on the chokehold was the carotid. That is the largest difference is whether or not the flow of air plus the flow of blood should be included in the definition. I told the folks that I was negotiating with, I will accept that as an amendment, and I'll offer it myself so that my 52 other Republicans will come along with me. They said, no, thanks. I said, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me you won't take your own definition as a way to improve the bill? They said no.
They didn't want to help. They wanted the issue. They wanted to keep the issue alive. Democrats want this as a campaign issue. I don't know that by the time we get to November, if this crime continues, I don't know that it continues to help the Democrats. I don't think it does. I don't think it can. I think that this doesn't go the way the Democrats want it to go, basically. It winds up blowing up in their face. And Tim Scott gave them ample opportunity to get on board and do real police reform, and the Democrats wanted to demonize it instead. You remember you had Dick Durbin refer to Tim Scott's proposal as a token, which Scott, of course, took as exactly as he should have. Dick Durbin did not say that by accident. He did it on purpose. They're trying to politicize the issue. They've got to keep black voters, the Democratic side. And I got to tell you, when the president is retweeting people chanting white power, even if he did it by an accident, and I think he did it because he didn't watch the whole video, that helps the Democrats too. The president's playing into their hand as well. The Republicans have some issues they're going to have to deal with. The president has some issues he's going to have to deal with. But you know what? They're manageable issues. They actually are manageable issues. There are things that we've got until November. The president has time. He's got time on his side to deal with these issues. And he needs to deal with these issues. The president needs to deal with getting Democratic voters away from the Democrats, black voters in particular, Hispanic voters, people who are philosophically conservative, who philosophically are not along, who are not down for the Democrats' secular, atheist, progressive white people agenda. But they're skeptical of Trump. He's got time to do it. He could build his coalition. But right now he doesn't seem focused on it. He doesn't seem focused on anything. He's going to have to change. He's going to have to do something. He's got to make a real change here. For the better, he needs to. Some of you need to change. You're worried about your money. You're worried about making ends meet. You're looking ahead to your kids' college. You're stressing about that. You are stressing about your own retirement. You're not sure what your path forward is. You're thinking of going through one of those various financial courses that teaches you money management skills. Let me recommend Dynamic Money to you. Dynamic Money is who my wife and I use. We use them. This show started in August. We've been using them before that. And they have been miracle workers in our lives with our money. You're familiar with Chris Burns. He guest hosts for me. And he is the CEO of Dynamic Money. And this company will sit you down, will walk through your finances, and will essentially give you, like you go for your doctor once a year for a physical exam, and they will give you a fiscal exam. They will look at your bank statements, your credit card statements, your mortgage, your life insurance, your car insurance, your auto insurance, figure out where they can get you better deals to save you money, figure out if refinancing is an option on your home, recommend people to do that. They are 100% fee-based. They do not take a commission. They will not steer you towards a product that will financially benefit them. They are there to just give you straight advice about your finances. Much like a doctor with your annual physical, they give you an annual fitness physical or fiscal physical. How about that? And sometimes it can be just as difficult when you got to sit down and do it, but they will do it. And man, did they help my wife and me. They figured out how to get equity out of our house, to pay off credit card debt, to be, again, building up a savings account, to build an emergency fund. They can do that for you as well. Go to dynamicmoney.com. That website is dynamicmoney.com. They will give you fantastic fiscal peace of mind so you can sleep well at night and not worry about your money. Hello there. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, if you want to be a part of the program, 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. You probably have not heard of Graham Linehan. He created Father Ted, which is a British series, and The It Crowd, a British series. And transgender activists have gone through his Twitter timeline and found statements he said that offended them and caused Twitter to ban him. One of the things that he said, for example, and this is what ultimately led to him getting banned, is he tweeted, "Men aren't women." The Women's Institute, a UK women's organization, wished Happy Pride Month to its transgender members, and this guy, Graham Linehan, tweeted, "Men aren't women, though." In the past, he also compared children questioning their gender to children being experimented on by Nazi Germany, and also suggested that it was child abuse to allow kids to begin treatment for transgenderism. And well, they came for him. They came for him for daring to raise questions. I got to tell you guys, this is the new cultural front here, and it's actually a front that divides more people than I would have suspected, even on the left. If you're someone of faith, I come at this from a faith aspect, that God creates us male and female. We don't. and we do not get the ability to pick and choose our gender. Gender is a word use that came about in the 50s and 60s because people didn't like to talk about sex. So they started calling it gender. Well, now the political activists on the left have decided, gender and sex must be different things. No, gender was the word people used because they didn't want to say sex. Given the connotations with sex, they used gender. And now people say, oh, no, gender is different from sex. And you got a bunch of crazy people out there who believe it. And you got progressives in the scientific community who believe it as well. It's crazy how the DSM lists gender dysphoria as a mental health issue. But over the years, progressive activists get them to change things, showing how much politics is involved in it. It is the new level of censorship out there that prominent people can be silenced for just saying the truth. Take J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling wrote a 3,600-word essay essentially saying that women are women and men can't become women. And it's silly that actors who were in Harry Potter had to call out J.K. Rowling. Did you know, my daughter was telling me that now some people are pretending that Harry Potter was written by someone else because they don't want to give J.K. Rowling credit for it. Or it's just like they're pretending boys can become girls or girls can become boys. It is the height of anti-science that a bunch of people who make science their god now think that boys can become girls and girls can become boys, and you've got to be shut up. The truth of the matter is, if you have to silence someone for a view like this, it means you can't actually win the debate. And you can't win the debate because science is not on your side. And so they're trying to shut you up. I've got a friend of mine. I'm trying to not give him more exposure than is necessary. I don't want him to be harmed by my defense of him, but I have a friend who's on a city council here in Georgia who said all lives matter, among other things. And he took issue with Black Lives Matter's protesters. And his employer is now being hounded for him saying this on his social media feed. He's an elected official. They're trying to recall him from office. He won an election, and they're now trying to throw him out of office. His opponents are just using this against him, that he's too divisive. The vice president of the United States is under fire for saying that all lives matter, and for saying that Black Lives Matter, the organization, is a progressive radical organization. And he's not wrong. This is increasingly something, and I don't think that President Trump is a good vehicle for a defense of this stuff, given some of the stuff the president tweets, accidentally or otherwise. But there's a real concern about the censorious nature of the left right now, trying to silence people who differ with them on all of these issues. I suspect one day they will come for me for refusing to embrace the transgender agenda. I mean, there really is nothing in science that shows that boys can become girls and girls can become boys. There really is nothing. It's all about their mental health and how they feel. And, for some people, actually conforming to the other gender actually calms them down a bit. But let's not ignore the fact that you're dealing with larger issues here. And they will come for me, and they will come for you, and they will want to shut you up. All for speaking common sense. And this is something the left increasingly does in society. Seeks to silence dissent. I wrote a book several years ago called You Will Be Made to Care. And the point of me saying you will be made to care is years ago when I was running redstate.com, someone wrote in, basically said, I don't care about gay marriage. I don't care if people get married. I don't care about homosexuality. I just don't care. And I wrote a reply to the guy and said, you will be made to care. You can say you don't care about this issue, but to not care is to care in a negative way, is to care against them. And you will be forced to care, and you will be forced to care in the right way. You will be made to care by them, and you will be made to say that this is good, and you will be made to say this is normal, and you will be made to say this is wholesome, and you will be made to say that this is just like marriage in general. You will be made to say these things. And increasingly we find these things. There are people increasingly of prominence who, if they don't say certain things on social media, well, that must mean they oppose it. And for example, the number of prominent people who didn't put things, look at what's happening with Hillsdale College. Hillsdale College is a college that has championed racial integration for years. It is a conservative college in Michigan. It does not take federal government money. Everybody who goes there has to work in some capacity. And I've got to tell you that they are under assault by the left for not specifically releasing a statement that Black Lives Matter. How dare they not release the statement? They will be made to care. It is not enough that they show through their pattern and practice. They must release a statement. It is part of liturgy. It is part of ritual. It is part of rite as the left becomes activist in these areas, as the left becomes essentially takes on the characteristics of religion. I mean, religion, I've said this before, religion doesn't go away. It just takes a new form. Christianity may fade, but religion itself does not. People still have in their mind that God exists. They just want to create God in their own image. I'm seeing this great trend among left-wing Christians in this day and age that, God just wants you as you are. You don't have to do anything to change for God to like you, really. Well, then why did Jesus have to die? Or are we going to dismiss the resurrection? Well, it was about love. God loves us so much that he died for us. You know, that's the Presbyterian Church in the United States, the heretical branch of the Presbyterians. They rejected the song "In Christ Alone" from their hymnal because there is a line that God's wrath was satisfied in the song, and the PCUSA wanted to change it to "His love was magnified." And the hymn writer said, no, that wouldn't be theologically accurate. So they rejected the song. The most popular modern hymn to come out of Christian songwriters in the last 2 decades. And they rejected it because they wanted to throw in theological heresy. And the songwriter said, no, God's love was not magnified on the cross. His wrath was satisfied. Jesus had to die to get us right with God. I mean, what sort of sick, twisted God would die on a cross out of love as opposed to his wrath needed to be satisfied? And that was the love. It wasn't just, God's got to die because he loves us. No, he's got to die because he loves us and wants a relationship with us, and he can't have a relationship with us because we're sinners. So Jesus had to be on a cross and take our sins upon himself so that God's wrath would be satisfied, so that when he looks at us, he can see us through Christ. That's the theology of it. Don't cheapen it, and yet people want to cheapen it. They want to cheapen all these things culturally in this country and have things mean things they didn't mean for thousands of years, like gender and sex are suddenly different things. It is the creation of a secular religion, and you will be made to care. They will come for you, and they will come for me. They will try to drive me from the air. They will try to drive you from your job. They will try to drive churches out of business. Religious institutions will be closed. I am seeing right now among mainstream liberal theologians the idea that Christian private schools are bad. They are institutions that prop up racism and homophobia and transphobia, and maybe the time is coming to shut them down. Maybe the time is coming to ban homeschool. You know, this is a movement increasing on the left. That homeschool must be shut down because homeschool allows parents to indoctrinate their children in ways that are unfit in society. Homeschool perpetuates racism. Why? Because more white families than black families have the benefit of homeschooling. You think I'm making this stuff up? I'm not. It's just, it used to be at the vanguard. The far left radicals would say this. And now increasingly more and more on the left are saying these things. They want to come for your homeschool. They want to come for your home church. They want to come for your church. They want to come for your church's school. They want to come for your Christian school. I'll tell you who's going to have the biggest problem right now are the Christian schools that are not directly affiliated with the church, because the way the Supreme Court doctrines are going, the Supreme Court decisions are going, is ministries that are directly tied to a religious organization have a lot of protections increasingly. We're going to find the Supreme Court's got a big religious liberty case coming, and I suspect even Roberts will go along with the religious liberty case here. And one of the carve-outs is going to be tied to faith-based organizations. So your non-denominational Christian church or Christian private school may have more problems than the Christian private school that's tied to your church. Of course, now that upends me because my kids went to our church's Christian private school and wound up not being very Christian, and we had to go to a different school that's not affiliated with any church. But they've got a more robust Christian education. I mean, my kids are doing apologetics, and instead of memorizing a Bible verse a week, they're memorizing chapters and having to dive into it deep. It's been impressive, the Christian education my kids are getting at the non-church affiliated Christian school. But you got to seek that stuff out, and the left knows you're seeking it out. The left knows you're going into homeschool programs, and they want this shut up because they got to indoctrinate your kids. They don't like you indoctrinating your kids. They want to indoctrinate your kids. You will be made to care. They will make you care about it, which is why you have to engage. And frankly, it is why the President of the United States needs to figure out a path forward for him to win in November. And right now, his campaign seems like they've given up. The president himself seems like he's given up. The president does not seem engaged. He doesn't seem like he knows what's going on, and he's just making a host of unforced errors. I mean, take for example the video he tweeted this weekend of the guy chanting white power. Had the president seen that, he wouldn't have tweeted it out. Now, I realize people say, of course he would have. This would have. No. I mean, overwhelmingly, even reporters who don't like the president are willing to give him the benefit of the doubt there and just say he didn't bother to pay attention. But that's part of the problem, is the president's not paying attention to this stuff. And in not paying attention to this stuff, he's making unforced errors that the left can gravitate towards. And that, my friends, is a problem that the president and his team need to figure out if they're going to win in November, because increasingly the left feels emboldened. And man, if Joe Biden gets elected, Joe Biden is a man who is not quite right. And everybody knows it, including the Democrats. And the left will control his administration, and that will give a backlash in 2 years, but we'll have to wait a painful 2 years for it to happen. So we need a shakeup of the Trump campaign team, and we need better focus on their side if they're going to pull it off in November. All right. Have you heard of TikTok? By now you have probably heard of TikTok. And, well, I need to explain. TikTok is this shows you what a terrible company Twitter is. Twitter had a thing called Vine where you could do these catchy 15, 30-second videos. And the problem is that Twitter never invested in it, and it took off among kids. My kids still say they're watching Vines when they watch TikTok things. And TikTok came along, and TikTok was a company. It was an American company, and you could do essentially these Vines, these 15-second to 30-second quick little video hits that were funny, and people get a laugh out of it. Well, TikTok got bought by a Chinese company, and now it's a Chinese company, and it exists as an instrument of the Chinese communist state spying on you. And Apple is releasing an update to its iOS operating system for its phones and tablets. And one of the things that it's doing in its update is when any app on your phone tries to use information gathered on your phone and send it to its servers, it sends you a notification that this is happening. Well, people thought there must be a bug, but it's no bug. It's actually happening. If you have TikTok on your phone and you save something under you copy something on your phone, say you copy a password on your phone, and then you open TikTok. TikTok sends that password to China. TikTok sends whatever is in your clipboard to China. If you write within TikTok and then delete it, TikTok sends that to China. If you go into another app, you type something out and then you copy it and paste it somewhere else, you're gone and forget, but it's still in your clipboard, TikTok sends that to China. It is a surveillance tool of the communist state. We actually block at our house. You can't actually get on TikTok at our house. I take it that seriously. I don't let my kids get on Snapchat either. Snapchat is where kids try to trade amateur porn with each other. There's no way I want my kids on that. And TikTok is even worse. TikTok is a Chinese communist operation and not only spies on you, but is, I guarantee you, building a database with which in the future you can be blackmailed. Look at American journalists right now, spending all of their time on social media trying to find, when anyone gets a little bit of fame, they go try to find something that they said, were they on social media when they were a kid? If they were, let's see if there's anything incendiary from when they were a teenager. Oh, yep, here it is. Use the N-word. Let's destroy this 30-year-old because back when they were 15, they said something incendiary and used the N-word with their friends and must be destroyed now. Never mind, that's the only instance of it on their social media feed. They got to be destroyed. We see this time and time again with the media now, trying to find anyone who has any amount of fame, anyone who has a good day. The media tries to destroy. You know, I tell people all the time, here's my explanation for social media. In Mark 5, the possessed men come out of this graveside and they call Jesus Son of Man, and they say, don't punish him. Please do something. Jesus wants to cast the demons out of the possessed men. And there's a herd of pigs coming by. And the demons beg Jesus, just throw us in the herd of pigs. And so Jesus does. He exorcises the demons out of the men. The legions, remember, they say their name is Legion, for they are many. And he puts them in the herd of pigs. And the legion of demons stampedes down into the lake. And all the pigs drown. Well, demons are eternal creatures. So they had to go somewhere when the pigs died. So where did they go? I think the most logical explanation is they went to Twitter. And that's where they exist. They jump forward in time and they went to social media. And if you understand that the legion of demons had to go somewhere where the pigs died, you suddenly understand how social media works. I mean, it really is the craziest thing. If y'all don't believe me, I will retweet you. You can tweet me at E.W. Erickson, and I will retweet you, and you just watch. It's like all the demons of hell and all the orcs in Mordor follow me on Twitter. It is the worst. I make it very difficult to actually see replies because the replies are so terrible. I mean, I literally could put up a tweet saying the sky is blue, and the demons of hell and the armies of Mordor would come forth and attack me for daring to say the sky was blue. Or particularly if I retweet someone, if I retweet anyone, particularly a pastor, if I retweet a pastor, the amount of hate and nastiness it makes me feel bad. There are things that other people tweet that I think this is great. I don't want to copy it. I don't want to steal it. I want to just retweet this person and give them credit for it. And it makes me feel so guilty on a daily basis to do it. The legion of demons explain social media, and the communist Chinese on top of it with TikTok adds another nasty layer to it. If your kids are on TikTok, I'm telling you, get them off of TikTok. Everybody needs to stop using it. The stuff we continue on a daily basis to uncover about that app and that platform is bad news. You have given the Chinese a surveillance state in your house if you use TikTok on any app. And you think I'm lying, you need to go read the data for yourself. It's bad. Delete that app if it's on your phones. Don't let your kids use it, folks. Don't let them use it.